Welcome CSE 121W1 for Spring 23, and I just wanted to give you a little introduction to Python Turtle graphics. We're going to be using the Turtle module, and you may have used that in CSE 103 or used it in high school or some other time, but we're going to use the Turtle module to work on some problem solving and work on a little more complex problem solving. Also introduce functions and lists and other kinds of things. So I just wanted to give you a little introduction in Spring 23 because you're going to watch some videos, and here's the YouTube playlist here. There's exercise 12 and 13 and so on. These are pretty good exercises, and I do like the videos. I went through the videos and I explained functions and arguments and parameters and things like that. So I do explain things pretty well in the video, although it's in older videos from fall 2020, and Replit will look a little different. So I just wanted to give you an introduction. So this will be a little exercise. It'll be worth 10, 15 points or something just to get started before you jump into Turtle Squares CMYK. Now, Turtle Squares CMYK isn't that difficult, but it does work with a function and it has a loop, and we're going to work with parameters and arguments. But I just wanted to give you a little introduction, just basic turtles, even as a refresher if you haven't done them for a semester or so. So a couple things I want to point out. One is there's a website called pythonclassroom.com, and even if you just go to pythonclassroom.com, it's a really good website, and I was just looking up something and I found it, and they go over IDEs, VS Code, which you can now do in the cloud. They have Replit, and although I think in here they have older versions, but anyway, here's CS50, which is actually using VS Code. They have Python Anywhere, which I've used in the past. They have Replit, which I use now, and I really like Replit. It's still called repl.it. Now it's called replit.com, so it's a little older. But they do have a section on Turtle graphics. And it's a little easier than going through the official Turtle graphics or Turtle module site. So there's a little video here, and they go over a lot of the different properties and commands and things like that. So this may be a nice reference for us to use, and even something for you to check out even before you get into it, or even as a refresher, just to remember some of these commands, and some of them you may have used, some of them you may have not used. But we're going to do this in Replit, and check this out ahead of time, and we'll also go through and probably do more with it. But this is a really nice site, pythonclassroom.com, so I'm going to work with more of that this semester. But anyway, back to turtles. The reason I wanted to at least show you that is because I wanted to go over something in the new version of Replit, because it'll look a little different and it'll come up differently. So before you get started on any of those older videos, I wanted to give a little intro of what it looks like now. So we're going to do something like this real quick, just a quick little intro exercise. I'll just run it, and it's just going to be making two squares side by side. No functions or anything like that. We're just going to run them side by side and even just copy and paste the code. So I just wanted to go through what we're going to do here when you first get into Replit to make a Python turtle. So I'm just going to start from the beginning here, just so you're aware of what you're going to see. I'm just going to go back here to my account and just go to my repels. And I'll just go in here to my CSE 121 Spring 23, and I'll make a new repel. So I'm inside that folder. If you have a folder, you could go inside there, and I'll hit create. What you're going to do is look for Python with turtle first. So you're going to come in here first, and you're going to look for not just Python, but Python with turtle. And if it doesn't come up, just type in Python, and it should be one of the two that come up. So there's other Python stuff that may come up, but look for Python with turtle, so it has to be that. So choose that, and then for the title, then put in 12, and I'll just put turtle intro. That's all you need, is just turtle intro, and you can put your initials. I'll put RH. You're just going to do that for your first repel, and then we'll do the CMYK one, and that's the older video. But start with this first, just to kind of practice a little bit. I'll hit create repel, and just to show you what you're going to see. Now, when it first opens up, you'll see three windows. You'll have a little GUI window here, meaning graphical user interface, and nothing will be there until we actually run it. There's a console here, which we normally have. Here's some code, and these are comments. These are extended comments up here with these three quotes at the beginning and at the end for kind of extended text other than just comments that we use with the pound sign. So there's some explanations here about the Python module, so it tells you about that stuff. It even shows you where the official docs are, and it kind of starts you off here. So all your turtle stuff will start off like this. So I'll leave this like this for now, and we're still going to work with a main PY, so don't change that or anything. In fact, I'll close this up So we kind of look at that. Now over here, you don't need a whole lot of room here for the console other than maybe errors. So we're not going to be reading our output here unless we do things with numbers. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit, and this will kind of resize, and I'll move this over just a little bit so it's nice and big. Now the turtle screen that we're going to work on starts in the middle at 0, 0. So it'll go up, it'll start 0 and then go up in positive numbers, the y-axis going up, the y-axis going down, and then there's the x-axis, positive numbers this way, and then there's x-axis, negative numbers that way. So we're going to be working on this grid here with the turtle. Now there's nothing on here right now, but actually there is something here, so I'll just see what they have. They have a little sample here to start with. Now we haven't worked with lists yet. They actually have a list with these brackets, and it's a list of colors, red, green, blue, and yellow. And it's actually for C in this list. So it's a little bit different than for I in range. So it's not using an integer, it's actually using elements in a list. And what it's doing is making a variable C, and C is going to go through this list, and first it's going to plug red in here, then it's going to plug green in here, then it's going to plug blue in here, and then it's going to plug yellow in here. And it's actually going to be using the pen color when we do that. It's going to be making the turtle color. Now, the turtle will just be like a pen color unless you use some kind of fill. But we're not using a fill just yet. So let me just show you what's going on here. We're going to run it, and you'll get an idea of what's happening. So you can see that it's actually the first loop. Now, this is still a loop for C in. It's doing a loop of 4 times. So it's making a color of C, which is the first time it's going to be red. Then it's going to go forward 75. And then it's going to go left 90, and then it's going to loop again. So this is what it's doing. It's making the color red, forward 75, and left 90. So it's just turning. So it's getting red, it's going forward, and it's turning. And then it's going to loop again, and then it's going to use green, and then it's going to go forward 75, and then turn left 90 degrees. And then it's going to go through the loop again, and it's going to make it blue. C is going to represent blue now, and then it's going to go 75, and then it's going to turn 90 degrees to the left because it's saying left. And then for the last one, it's going to be yellow. Now you could plug something else in here. You could make it purple if you want. If you don't want to make it yellow, yellow's hard to see. Let's try it with purple. And it looks almost burgundy, but that's the purple color there. And notice that the turtle, this little arrow here, is actually, that's the default turtle. I know sometimes we see the turtle thing, but we have to make the shape turtle. In order to make it look like a turtle, we'd have to go here and put t.shape, and then in parentheses, we'd have to put turtle in quotes. Now, that's not that important right now, but let me just go over a couple things here when you do that. So now we have the turtle, and again, it's going red, forward turning, and then it's turning green, forward turning, and then it's going blue, forward and turning, and then purple, forward and turning, and then it turns one more time, and that's why it's turning to the left one more time over here, and it's facing that way, the way it started. Now this is 0, 0. So, if we look at our grid, it's kind of on the upper right side of our grid, and there's no fill right now. So we just made it purple right now. And a couple things I just want to show you is that we have to have this import turtle. Now I'm even going to get rid of this because maybe we don't need this right now. We're going to start off just like we did import random. We're going to import the turtle module, and we're going to basically say from the turtle module import the turtle class. Now there's a turtle class, there's a screen class, and from the turtle class it's going to have all kinds of properties, so we have to use both. So this is a variable here, although technically it's an instance, but it's kind of like a variable, but this is going to be an instance that we're going to use, t dot. So an instance is like a variable, but that's going to represent an instance of the turtle class. So we'll get more into that with object-oriented programming, but just for now, it's like a variable, so it has its own name. It's a little piece of the turtle class. It's like I've seen it described as peeling off a sticky note. So if you have a stack of sticky notes, this is one instance of it. So T is going to be an instance there. So notice that the module has a lowercase, just like up there. So lowercase t, and the class has a capital T. Because the first thing that people will screw up is this will have a small t, and it won't work. And you'll go to run it, and things won't really work with a small t. You'll get errors. So make sure you have the capital T there. So make sure you always have that to start. And now I have shape turtle here. I didn't need that. That's a property, but I'm putting it in there. And sometimes people will even do things like this. Oh, shape turtle. Now you can't do that either. It has to be a string, because it's looking for a variable there. So make sure that you use strings when you need strings, just like these colors are strings, and they have single quotes. You could use single quotes, double quotes, it doesn't matter. Now, just to do something that's familiar from what we've done, instead of C here, let's do this. Let's do for I in range, because we've done that before. Let's do I in range, and then we'll use parentheses, and I'll put a parentheses here, and just get rid of all this inner stuff. I'll get rid of this list of colors, because we haven't talked about lists yet, so I don't want to get into lists yet. But we have used for I in range with an integer. So instead of 4 colors, let's just put the number 4. So now we're going to use an integer. And now it says for I in range 4. Now we have a red line under C because it doesn't know what C is. It's looking for a color, and C is not a color. So what do I have to put in here? Let's just make a color, and I'll just put in red. And I'll put quotes, and I'll put red. So we'll basically make a red square right now. Now it'll be just a red outline. So let's try it out. There it is. It just did the outline. Now if we want to do a fill, we have to do a begin fill and an end fill. And also, one other thing I want to point out is if you go to the bottom here, if you don't know where to find this stuff, they have reference docs.python turtle, or if you just search Python turtles, you'll come up with this. But I'm going to open this up. And here's the reference. And it's not always the easiest thing to follow. But if you need to go here quick and look at things like, filling, there's begin fill, end fill, and you could kind of look at how they're used. But notice begin fill and end fill, you have to use both of these, and they have an underscore. And there's nothing in the parentheses. So begin underscore fill, end underscore fill. And we're going to use those right now. So let me just go back here. Now, if you went into the loop and you did t.begin underscore fill, it typically doesn't loop begin fill and end fills, and typically you want to start the fill, do something, and then finish it. So I'm already getting some issues there with indents and stuff like that, although I'll talk more about indents, but I think we can put this in here. Let me copy this, and at the end I'll put an end fill, and I'll tab this over, and I'll make this end fill. And also, if you get an issue with indents, just do this. Try to do like Shift Tab and hit Tab again, and then go down to the next one. Shift Tab, Tab, Shift Tab, Tab, and then I'll do Shift Tab, Tab. Sometimes that'll get rid of any indent errors. Now, this is a loop that's running, and let's see what happens. Okay, notice it didn't fill it, because the fill isn't typically part of a loop. So what we have to do is just get this out of the loop. So I'm going to cut this and put the begin fill before the loop happens, and then put the end fill after the loop happens. And I'll get rid of this extra space here. And I'll make sure I do Shift Tab here, because remember, when there's a loop, everything's indented. So this stuff is indented in the loop, and end fill is not part of the loop. So we have to remember that for this loop, we want to be at the margin here, then we're inside here. So we don't want anything else in the loop but these 3 things. So what's going to happen here, it's going to start to fill, and then it's going to draw a square. And it is going to use that red color because it's pulling up the color red. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so now it did a fill, and even at the end, if you'd want to hide the turtle, you could do t.hide turtle. And if you start typing, it might come up. There it is, hide turtle, because you might be like, well, does it underscore turtle or not? And you could just use hide turtle. Make sure you put the parentheses. They're empty. There's not going to be anything in there, but you need them because it's a method. These are all methods that we're working with, methods of the turtle class, just like we've worked with some other methods in the past already. So I'm going to run this one more time, and this time it should hide the turtle. And it's gone. So the turtle's gone at the end. So we created an instance of a turtle, and whether you want to call it a variable or an instance, it's really called an instance of the class. But now we're using that instance name, t dot, and we're turning the shape to turtle. You don't need to have it. It'll just be a little triangle if you don't use it. And then we're doing a begin fill, then we're running this loop, which actually is creating it. So this loop is creating, you could put a comment here, creates the square, because there's no method that creates a square. There's a method that creates a circle, but not a square. So we create the square kind of just doing 4 sides like that. So that's what it does. So that loop there creates the square, and then we're ending the fill, and then we're hiding the turtle. Now, if you wanted another square, and we've done this, we can do functions, and you're going to do that in the next exercise. But just for now, if we just make a blue square right here, what we have to remember is this is 0, 0. So if we wanted to draw a second square, where would it be next to it? It would actually be over here. It would have to be how far? Oh, well, it's forward, not 75. So this is 75. So we're going to have to go backwards 75. So it's going to have to be at negative 75. So how do you get there? Because we're going to have to start drawing it there. You actually do something called go to. Now, if you go through this, you'll go through and you'll see where you could reposition your turtle and all that. So I'm asking you to go through this and look at it. I'm not going to show you everything here, but there is something called a go to. And if you've been in 103, we've done the go to. So that just tells the turtle where to go. So let's tell the turtle where to go. Now, we're going to tell a second turtle. You can make a whole new instance, or you could just do the same one. So this is the t.turtle instance. I could just say t.goto, and I'll put negative 75 for the x, because you always go x and then y. So it's x first. There it's telling you x and then y. So we're going to do negative 75, which is going to move it to here, and then the y is just going to be 0. And then we can do everything the same. We can do the begin fill, we can do all this. So I could just copy this. I don't need to do shape turtle again, because we'll just keep it the same turtle. And now we're just using the same turtle instance, and after it completes the first red square, it's going to go to negative 75, 0, and then do the same thing again. Except it made it red. And that's because I didn't change this. I should change this to blue. So I'll change that to blue. And now it works. Now, we could have created a whole second turtle. I could have gone here and made another instance and called it like T2 and then made everything T2. We could have done that. That'll work too. That'll just be making a second instance of it, but we didn't have to do that. We did it all with the first instance, but I'll just throw T2 in here just to show you that we can do that. Now this is a whole new instance of a turtle that's turning blue, and it doesn't really matter if we use the same one or a different one, but this will work the same way. Now notice you saw a new turtle come out. It wasn't the same one. It was no longer hidden, so it actually came out and created that, although it still was in the shape of a turtle because we have shaped turtle here. So and then it was hidden at the end. So we saw the turtle again. That's the only difference with creating the second one. So that's all you have to do for this exercise. I just want to get you used to what's going on here with some of these commands. We're going forward, we're turning left. This puts in a degrees of 90 degrees. This is going pixels, 75 pixels. This is taking string colors, and we could put in hex colors and all kinds of named colors, and we could use variables. So we could set up different colors and then just throw in variables. So we're going to be working with this more, but I just wanted you to get used to the interface of how it looks, in spring of 23, because some of the older videos will look a little different, and they have the white background, and even the sharing is a little different. And remember, we're always just going to share just by copying this and pasting it. And I think that's it for now. But, this, like I said, this may look a little different in this area, because the engine that's running Replit is a little bit different now than it was a couple years ago, back in 3 years ago or whatever. So anyway, this is your little intro, so you could do this for 15 points. We'll just call it 12 turtle intro, and that'll be in Unit 6. So I just wanted to point that out just to get you used to this. And some of the other videos you're going to watch now are going to be a little bit older, but reference this as far as things you're going to see. I'll make some newer videos for the turtles, but to get you started on some of that CMYK stuff and some of those polygons, similar to some of the things we've done in 103, just to get you used to thinking about problem solving and functions and lists and all kinds of things that we're going to throw in there. We're going to work with turtles a little bit, and it's nice to take a break from just looking at output here and actually seeing some visual things going on your screen. So anyway, that's your turtle intro beginning Unit 6.